presentation today is 3 out of 4 choices are bad, cracking the multiple choice questions in AP World History. Rule number 1, you have to know 2 things to be successful on the multiple choice part of the exam. You have to know world history. There's no real way around that, and it takes a lot of studying. The second thing is that you need to show that you know history. And the way you do that is by giving good responses. That includes on multiple choice tests. Beginning in 2012, you're no longer penalized for wrong answers on the AP multiple choice portion of the test. So the safe bet is not to answer any of the questions, right? Well, not quite. What this means is that there may be times on the test where an educated guess can actually help you out. There are 4 choices for each question, right? A, B, C, and D. If you eliminate just one wrong answer for each question on the entire multiple choice section, random odds say you would get 1/4 of the questions correct. That's about 18 questions or points. Even if you get rid of just one wrong answer from each question, you begin to gain points. What does this mean when you're taking the test? Well, it means you should do your best, but you can take a best guess as long as you eliminate at least one answer. Guessing will help because it saves time. There are 70 questions to answer in 55 minutes. That's 45 seconds per question. How can you do that? 2 ways. Guess and go, and don't go. Now let's consider the following question. In the Zhou dynasty, the mandate of heaven meant that rulers A. had an absolute right to rule over the governed as they wished, B. were appointed by Buddhist leaders, C. were allowed to keep their power if they ruled justly and wisely, and D. were encouraged to spread Buddhism through the building of monasteries. Let's take a pretend look at 2 possible thought processes that are used by 2 different students. I know that Chinese leaders were considered as gods. Does that mean absolute rights? Isn't that what gods do? Wait, I know that for a while there were many Buddhists in China who had a lot of power over the government. I can't remember whether they picked the leader or not. Maybe they did. Was this during the Zhou dynasty or was it the Han? But wait, didn't honor and loyalty play a big part in China's government and ideologies? There was that familial piety thing that we talked about where the father was the head of the household and was to be respected, and this should be modeled with rules. Wasn't that Confucius? Didn't Buddhists want monasteries built so that they could save and spread their religion? Would they have tried to get their leaders to do this for them? Now let's look at the thought process of student number 2. Okay, the mandate of heaven had to do with leaders having some kind of control. A mandate means that it was a law. I remember that there were several times in China's history that leaders had been so harsh that revolts had occurred. I know that Buddha came on the scene pretty late, maybe around 500 BCE. What's that dynasty song we learned? Oh yeah. The Zhou were very early. Buddhism is out. So it must refer to something under the Confucian or Taoism. I think divine right came with Europe, which was much later. I'm going to go with C. Notice that student number 1 got hung up on trying to figure out when and where each event occurred. He tried to analyze each detail in hopes of coming up with an answer. At the end of 30 seconds, not much progress was made. He was constantly trying to put ideologies together along with dates and dynasties. Now let's take a look at the mechanics of a good multiple choice question. There are 3 parts to a multiple choice question. 1, the stem or the question. 2, the correct answer. And 3, wrong answers or distractors. Let's say you have crafted a question about a similarity between Christianity and Islam. This is the question that we came up with. the spread of Islam and the spread of Christianity were similar in that members of both religions, and our correct answer that we're going to choose is going to be actively strive to convert members of other belief systems. You have your question and your correct answer. Now you need the wrong responses that might attract a tester who is unsure about the correct answer. You could insert something that is true for one religion but not necessarily true for both religions. Now, of course, wrong answers are answers that are not right, but wait, there's more to it than that. Wrong answers have to be believable, based on some element of truth, and just enough to throw off the person who doesn't quite know their facts. For example, we know that Christianity was founded by Jesus Christ, and its followers believed that he was God. On the other hand, we know that Muhammad was the founder of, but was not seen by the followers of Islam as divine or God. So now we have our first distractor, or wrong answer response. So in this case, we have a letter open, and so what we're going to put in there is, for the letter C, believe that their founders were divine. Next, we know that early Christians such as Paul spread Christianity. On the other hand, Islam was spread by merchants, including Muhammad, eastward and westward on ancient trade routes. Therefore, our next distractor may look something like this. Christianity and Islam were both spread primarily via the ancient trade routes of Africa and Asia. So now you see that we've added one more possible answer to our question, and now we have one letter left to go. Okay, let's look for the fact that Christianity began as a religion somewhere between 30 CE and spread during the waning years of the classical period in world history. On the other hand, Islam is much younger than Christianity, which started about 600 CE. Now, you should see that there are many ways to word these facts. I will do it this way. The spread of Islam and the spread of Christianity were similar in that members of both religions, A, began at roughly the same time, B, spread primarily via the ancient trade routes of Africa and Asia, C, believed that their founders were the divine, D, actively strive to convert members of other belief systems. The idea is to force the test taker into using the process of elimination, or POE. If you can create questions requiring this method, it will help you develop the right train of thought for solving questions on the exam. Another way to look at it is this: all the answers are wrong until proven correct. It won't happen every time, or probably won't. However, with a little practice, I believe that you can give yourself the edge you need to be successful on the multiple choice portion of the exam.